Well, it seems, believe it or not, the recession may be the great gender equalizer. A study done by Catalyst, a nonprofit research group focused on women in the workplace, found that women with MBAs fared as well as men with MBAs in terms of job opportunities and job losses in these tough economic times. For more on this study, we're joined by Catalyst CEO Ilene. She's here with us now live in studio. Can you say that a recession's a gender equalizer, or is there something more to this?
I wouldn't call it an equalizer, but I would say that this was an equal opportunity recession when it comes to MBAs. And in particular, the study looked at alums from 27 business schools around the world who got their degrees from 1996 to 2007. So it's that mid-career, primarily mid-career group. And yes, it was equal opportunity. Women and men were lost their jobs at about the same rates. They left voluntarily around the same rates. They returned around the same rates. They were promoted around the same rates. They started businesses at around the same rate, so it was very, very similar in their experiences.
How similar were the salary levels of these individuals and the industries that they were in?
So we didn't sample for compensation. We just asked what's happened to you since between the period of December 2007 and June 2009. And so we didn't ask about compensation. We have a broad range of industries and geographies. And the sample is proportionate to the representation that you see of women and men in business school programs.
Now, in looking at the research report that you released, that Catalyst released, it was interesting to see, in terms of career opportunities, career advancements, in the U.S., 34% received a promotion, 35% made a lateral move. We had some of those figures up on the screen just moments ago. Women, just as likely as men to be promoted, but not the case in Europe. Very different story in Europe.
Right. It's a different story in Europe. And what we think, of course, we didn't get into the whys in this study, just the effects. But what we hypothesize about the situation in Europe is it's been a much harder promotion path for women into business leadership in Europe.
Women with MBAs in Europe have a harder time than those in America.
Women have a harder time in general being promoted into senior leadership. And being on the fast track in Europe. They just face more barriers, and therefore the recession just magnifies that, we think.
That's interesting because today, that very widely watched list of the most powerful women in the world, Forbes magazine puts out every year, Angela Merkel of Germany has been at the top of that list for 3 years now. So one of the most powerful women in the world, as deemed by Forbes, is a woman in Europe. Is it something different in the financial world than the political world there?
There definitely is, but we don't study the political world. We study the business world. And in the business world, women in the U.S. or women who are at U.S. headquartered companies do better than the Europeans. I have to point out that there's one major area besides Europe that is very significant where women and men did not fare similarly, and that is that women in the most senior jobs were more than 3 times as likely to lose their job involuntarily than men. And that's a really serious negative consequence, we think.
And that's where?
That's all over.
Lose it involuntarily.
Right, right. So women lost their jobs at a much more significant rate than men did.
When you look at a list, the Forbes list of most powerful women that's expected out today, what's your reaction to that? Do you think that we should still have lists separate based on gender and based on advancement, or should it be sort of a common pool? Should it be gender neutral?
Well, I personally, and Catalyst definitely thinks that we have to showcase the women because there are so few. And if we were at a point of parity, that would be a different matter. But even today, in the Fortune 500, it's 500 companies, only 15 women are CEOs of those companies. And that's a long cry from parity, and therefore we really have to showcase them.
Was there a significant difference with the industries that men and women work in? I mean, the financial world, obviously very hard hit.
Well, we didn't control for industry, so I'm just giving you consolidated numbers. Right.
Okay. And when you look at the willingness to leave voluntarily, is there a similar attrition rate?
So what the study shows is that among the women, approximately 10% left voluntarily, but 9% returned. And among the men, about 3% left voluntarily and 2% returned. So net, it's the same difference.
And what about entrepreneurship? I mean, a lot of people who have lost their jobs are saying, okay, maybe it's my chance to follow my dream, to start my own business.
Among this cohort, which are the MBAs from top schools who got their degrees from 1996 to 2007, it was pretty comparable with men and women. Around 5% men and women started their own businesses.
Interesting. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming into our studio. We'll continue to track this story and the effects, the human side, the effects of this recession on men and women.